Good morning, everyone. Koya nga dialogy unom ilalagluta koyokimti. Ako nga kuin kakamiyong nga tanak mukta kami ilama pilakat nga kaya kamji makan kuin hamak. Good morning. My name is Jacqueline Kelly. I am Yupik from Punahak, Alaska, and I am joining you from my community this morning. So the Alaska Tribal Resilience Network is led by the center's tribal liaisons, and this includes researchers, interns, outreach professionals, and communication staff who are committed to building stronger collaborative relationships with Alaska's tribal communities. So on our team, we have Melinda Chase, who's a senior tribal liaison. She's hosted by UAF and the rest of the tribal liaisons. That's Caitlin Demoski, Tess Hostetter, and myself. We're assistant tribal liaisons, and we recently got our senior liaison, who is Lori Petrowski, and we are hosted by the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society. Together, we are the Tribal Resilience Liaisons for the Alaska CASC, which is the Climate Adaptation Science Center. Our purpose is to serve as a link between tribes and the climate science community in working together with a purpose of increasing tribal capacity to prepare for and respond to climate impacts and change. And as we get started, I want to ask Megan Peters, thank you, Megan, and Krista, in helping prepare for today's session. So I'd like to go to the next slide. So our offices are located at the Fairbanks office is at the Trop Yeda, and the Anchorage office is at the Denina Elena and Linkdani in Juneau. And then I'm located in Punahak on the right side of the screen. Those are the locations of our where our offices are. So as I was brainstorming the topic for today's information session, I considered one of the repercussions of climate change, which is lack of snow, or so we've been facing some winters where the conditions aren't cold enough to make it safe for our people to hunt caribou, and so so here we are with those of us living in rural Alaska. We're dealing with climate change effects that are both on our land and on sea. We've heard about the lack of fish that some of our communities are facing in the Yukon, and all of us in rural Alaska know that food security is impacted because of climate change. Last month, I had the privilege of meeting Nathan Bering, who is the program director for Kawerak's Reindeer Herding Association. And so I'd like to hand this over to the team. And if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat bar, but we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end of today's session.
All right, Megan, give me a thumbs up if that's my my cue to get started. Perfect. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. And thanks, Jacqueline, for the introduction. I'm going to really quickly share my screen, and then I'll just need a confirmation that everyone is able to see what I'm seeing. how are we looking for folks? If anyone can give a thumbs up in their reactions bar on the bottom of the Zoom. Perfect. All right. Yeah, again, thanks everyone for being here. My name is Nathan Bering. I'm the program director for Kawerak's Reindeer Herders Association up in Nome, Alaska, but I was born and raised on the lands of the Lower Tanana people, and I live about 1 minute from the Trothieta campus in Fairbanks, although I go to the region in Nome and out into the communities with the herds frequently, as I was in Savonga last week as one example. Before we dive into the kind of organizational outline and vision of the Reindeer Herders Association and the Alaska Native herders we serve, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about some of the term definitions that we're using here in this presentation, because these words, food sovereignty, climate resilience, self-determination, they're big words that hold a lot and are very important, but it's important that we also contextualize them in how we are using them for the purpose of reindeer. So when I say food sovereignty, that term comes from La Via Campesina, which was a sort of reaction to industrial food production in 1996. And its academic definition is the right of peoples to healthy and culturally appropriate food produced through ecologically sound and sustainable methods, and their right to define their own food and agriculture system. How the Reindeer Herders Association would apply that to sort of the reindeer industry of Northwest Alaska is we are really all about empowering the community and the individuals and the tribes that own the various reindeer herds in those communities, empowering them to self-determine their own vision for what they want to do with reindeer in their community. And the common threads that tend to tie that together are providing high quality food and employment while sustaining cultural lifeways, the cultural history, both historical and contemporary, around reindeer herding. And so when we say food sovereignty, we're talking about, a tribally or individually in a tribe controlled food system centered around reindeer as both a cultural and sustenance source that is located in the village and not imported. And what we mean by climate resilience, the International Energy Agency defines climate resilience as the ability to cope with climate change's impacts, such as extreme weather, sea level rise, and droughts. And when we're talking about climate resilience in the reindeer industry, reindeer are impacted by, things like rain on snow events and changing migration patterns, as Jacqueline mentioned, of caribou are sort of an impetus for, the use of reindeer. And then, the core of the Reindeer Herders Association mission is seeing reindeer as sort of a solution of sorts, or a much more resilient food system when you have actively managed herds that are close to communities and that are not quite as subject to the changing migratory or weather conditions or erosion patterns that are characterized by climate impacts in the region. So to use an anecdote, I received a call a while back from the community of Buckland, and they were saying, we're really worried because the caribou are no longer as predictable. They're no longer coming as close to our community. We need reindeer now, because reindeer are something that the tribe and the individuals living in the community can have a role in making sure that is a food system that is, more closely tied to the community. That if the caribou are becoming less predictable and the community needs to eat. So going into sort of, I think I skipped one. There we go. So just quickly overviewing a brief history of Alaska Native reindeer husbandry. It's very hard to summarize it very quickly, so there are many beautiful resources on this, and if anyone has further interest, I encourage them to look into them. But essentially, it's often noted that reindeer are not originally in Alaska up until the late 1800s, where a kind of a combination of colonization with the decimation of local subsistence resources and sort of a particularly low cycle of, the cyclical cycles of subsistence resources really kind of created this drive among, at the time, the colonizers to bring reindeer to Alaska from Chukotka, the Russian peninsula. And so Reverend Sheldon Jackson brought the first herd of reindeer to the Teller Station and locations in Northwest Alaska around the early 1890s. And eventually Sami reindeer herders helped to teach Alaska Natives how to herd reindeer. What I really want to so sorry, I'm getting a phone call. What I really want to highlight is in 1937, Congress passed the Reindeer Act, which provided for exclusively Alaska Native ownership of reindeer in Alaska. And that act is still in effect until today. That act was sort of, the impetus for that act had a lot to do with the fact that, Congress was troubled by, ownership of various different groups that were coming into the region and sort of taking over from the Alaska Native original ownership. And also the intent was to provide a self-sustaining industry for Alaska Natives at the time in 1937 when the act was passed. And as I said, that act is still in effect. So one of the goals of the Reindeer Herders Association is to really look at, what does that act mean in a modern context? Okay. In 1971, the Reindeer Herders Association was formed at Kawerak, which was centered around advocating for the Alaska Native reindeer industry. And then another important event was in 1997 when the case of Williams v. Babbitt, which is important in how it forms the modern reindeer industry. It sort of distinguished between Alaskan reindeer, which were reindeer before the 1937 Reindeer Act, and non-Alaskan reindeer, which are reindeer that are imported from other locations, not descended from that original Chukotkin herd. And that's where you get sort of a distinction between Alaskan reindeer, which can only be owned by Alaska Natives, and non-Alaskan reindeer, as it's defined in the law, those that were imported after this decision in 1997. Today, there are roughly 20,000 reindeer tended by herders across the Seward Peninsula and St. Lawrence Island. And they are in multiple communities, and the Reindeer Herders Association works with the Alaska Native reindeer herders to support them in their efforts to create the vision and the business plan for how they want to utilize the reindeer herding way of life in their community. I won't go too deeply into this. I just kind of wanted to provide it as a brief visual for folks to sort of get a sense of what are some of the different areas that the Reindeer Herders Association actually does with the herders on a day-to-day basis. One of the areas I might highlight for the purposes of this presentation is the workforce development and education side, which is where we get the strong partnership with the High Latitude Range Management Program at the University of Alaska Fairbanks Northwest Campus. Lots of partnerships there around building the next generation of reindeer herding experts and, partnering on different projects on workforce development. Another area that's kind of unique to the Reindeer Herders Association is the RHA Council. So the way that we really focus on supporting our herders is we have an advisory council, basically, which is composed of all of the Alaska Native reindeer herders of the region. And so we host multiple meetings per year where they basically tell me what and prioritize for me what I should be working on their behalf to really best represent their interests. And that brings, the policy and advocacy focus, the business and planning, doing outreach and really helping make connections with folks who might buy reindeer products, whether that's meat or antler sales or, art products. And then finally, there's, of course, the administrative side, which is more of the program management, the staff in the program, and, making sure that there's the budget to support our herders. So that's just a quick overview of the RHA. And I just wanted to, before I turn it over to Jackie to go into more of the educational and the on that side of the equation and sort of those issues. I also wanted to just quickly do a brief slideshow of a couple photos of some recent site visits that the Reindeer Herders Association engaged with, just as examples of, you know, where we're working. We visited Council this summer, which is the location of one of the president of the Reindeer Herders Association Council, which is Tom Gray, and looked at his corral site. We visited the Davis Ranch, or Midnight Sun Reindeer Ranch, located in Nome, to sort of assess the site needs there and get introduced to how that operation is running. We visited the corral site for the Kawerak herd, which is in Teller. This is, as you can see, a site that was really decimated by the Typhoon Hrabok flood. For those of you in other parts of the state who might remember that, hitting the Nome region and surrounding areas really hard. So looking at sort of how we might facilitate a rebuild of this area. We visited Brevig Mission, the Brevig Mission herd, and you can see us. Sorry, the photo quality may be a little blurry, but we're walking along the side of, you know, one of the corrals, which is many hundreds of feet long in its entirety, and looking at some of the needs to perfect that as well.
Nice. Okay.
And then finally, this was only a couple weeks ago, visiting the old corral site from on St. Lawrence Island in Savonga, and looking at sort of the infrastructure needs in that community in the interest of utilizing the herd there. And I wanted to make sure I kept my segment brief and give you a brief introduction to the Reindeer Herders Association. I know we have a question and answer session at the end, so please, if I didn't cover something you wanted me to cover and you want to know more, feel free to ask away on any of those questions then. But I'll now turn it over to Dr. Jackie Hrabok from the campus.
The High Latitude Range Management Program is like the newest, most interactive and hands-on program that is offered through the Northwest Campus in Nome from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. This is a program that I am faculty of, and I work with Bonnie Scheele, who is on this slide, the bottom right. And together, we have prepared an occupational endorsement and the certificate program for students that are interested in preparing themselves for entry-level jobs in natural resources, which includes becoming a reindeer entrepreneur. Our students are coming from primarily all over the Bering Strait region. So from Nathan's presentation, you had a glimpse into some of the communities of where there are remnants of reindeer corrals, where there are new corrals being constructed. And our students are coming from those areas, such as Savonga, Brevig Mission, Stebbins, St. Michael, Shishmaref, Kawerak, Gullivan, Nome. So all over. And there are also then students who they would like to join classes through online distance education. So in the High Latitude Range Management Program, there is the certificate program. It's part-time, delivered through 3 years. Primarily, students are flown into Nome 3 times per year for what are called intensive courses. So classes are from 1 UAF credit, 2 or 3 UAF credits. If a student is interested in just the core courses of the program, it means that you'd be taking the courses most relevant to reindeer entrepreneurship. Then you could have the opportunity to register for the occupational endorsement, which is only 13 credits compared to the certificate program, which is the full 31 credits. One of our recent graduates is Katie Hersner, and here she is showing off her double degree. These are some of the courses. So what type of educational opportunities does Northwest Campus offer if a young student or an already established reindeer herder is interested in updating? Here's a list of some things that we do offer throughout the year, and not, of course, in every year. Some of the exciting programs that the students, they really do enjoy is this one, meat production, Alaska ungulate husbandry. That means everything to know about the other wildlife game species that share range with reindeer, such as muskox, moose, caribou. Field research logistics. This is a class that's offered throughout, actually part of the snow-free period, and then at this time of the year where we're just not sure, will there be snow on the ground or will there be ice on the ground? In this photo are the students from May studying health and disease, specifically for reindeer. And one of the field trips took the students to the Midnight Sun Reindeer Ranch, which is owned by Bonnie Scheele, who is also then our newly hired full-time program manager for High Latitude Range Management Program. In addition to the coursework, the theory work that is done most usually in the classroom or in the lab, the best highlights of each class are the hands-on components, where students are introduced to elders who have previously owned reindeer or those that still do. We will invite people to come to the classroom to share a really expertise level. Sometimes it might be the Reindeer Herders Association is invited in, Bureau of Land Management, Natural Resource Conservation Service, range specialists, state veterinarian. Some of the different offerings to students interested in natural resources with a component of the reindeer husbandry, these are some of them. So although the High Latitude Range Management Program is a college-based program, we also have College Jumpstart for high school students in the upper levels. In the late 70s and 80s, did you know that the Alaska Reindeer Husbandry and Reindeer Research Program for the state of Alaska was conducted by the Co-op Extension Services? And then there was a period where the Reindeer Research Program was offered through the Institute of Agricultural and Natural Resources and based in Fairbanks. And since last year, the High Latitude Range Management Program, then based in Nome, is the lead for all reindeer education, research, and the link between the reindeer owners, the reindeer herders, and the university. Other courses on here you can see, they all vary from ages, roughly ages 10 and up. So there's an opportunity for kids in 4-H through Ecology Explorer Summer Program, where they get their introduction to natural resources and reindeer handling and how to acquire biological samples. On the Land, which is also a summer-based hands-on college program. And during the summer months is the opportunity for students to kind of work or volunteer as interns for the reindeer herders. Working with the Kawerak Reindeer Herders Association, the High Latitude Range Management Program is able to offer more opportunities to students to work with the herders to help them, whether that is with corral construction, fencing, pounding posts, perhaps actually analyzing a fecal sample from a reindeer. And that is what's occurring in this photo on the left, where one of the students was sent with the tasks to identify presence or absence of a parasite that is known in muskox and in reindeer. So myself as faculty, my background is for over the last 20 years, I'm coming from the Sami Education Institute in Northern Finland, in the Sami Reindeer Husbandry range. And through really good collaboration and partnership with the director, the previous director of the Sami Education Institute and the previous director of Northwest Campus, I have been really fortunate to have the opportunity to kind of be a link, I would say, between the indigenous peoples of Fennoscandia, consisting of northern Norway, Sweden, Finland, and northwestern part of Russia, and with the reindeer husbandry for North America, primarily in Alaska and the High Latitude Range Management Program. So for me, it's important that students who are studying and working and living with reindeer as part of their livelihood, that they have an opportunity for student exchange. That students have that opportunity to also meet and work with other government agencies. Here, Karen Sonnen from Alaska Natural Resource Conservation Services, she's a range specialist for reindeer, is sharing with students this past July, right here on the outskirts of Nome, the preferred diet of reindeer. Which lichen species do reindeer select? Which lichen species do muskox feed from? Over the last 3 years, the High Latitude Range Management Program then has incorporated the business component of reindeer husbandry for the state of Alaska. In this photo, you can see a tourist resort. It's a recreational gold mining resort on the outskirts of Nome. Their season is from June through September. Now you can imagine you're having roughly 40 clients coming from mostly all across the USA, and they need to eat. So we have students from the High Latitude Range Management Programs from Savonga, where Savonga is developing their commercial reindeer company in the production of reindeer meat, such as what you can see in the bottom lower left corner. Those are 100% reindeer burgers. The reindeer have been purchased from the company Alaska Golden Resort, from the Savonga students, and then in Nome, as part of summer curriculum, the On the Land students then learn reindeer meat production and business and marketing. So the clients that are all in this photo, they are eating reindeer burgers that have been cut and prepared by students of the High Latitude Range Management Program. And these reindeer have been grown free ranging on St. Lawrence Island and have been harvested by the reindeer herders around Savonga area. in addition to meat production, growing your own high quality reindeer meat items, think of all of the other than what we consider the value added products, the byproducts of the reindeer industry. One of them is the reindeer hair, the fur. Through partnership with the High Latitude Range Management Program and running Reindeer Ranch out of Fairbanks, I had the opportunity to meet with the owner and to develop new products. Through the Coyote Fiber Mill in Fairbanks, they are producing, it's similar to like Kiviat from muskox, they are producing skeins of reindeer yarn, reindeer wool. And the waist guard hairs from reindeer are shown here in this photo, where the college jumpstart students, our high school students for the Bering Strait region, they're learning how to wet and dry felt reindeer hair with lamb's wool. They are making seat cushions. Part of every class of the High Latitude Range Management Program includes business skills of what is the value of a finished made product, whether it's reindeer meat or a craft product that has been made from reindeer antler, hoof, shin bones, teeth, or the leather or fur. Last November and December, High Latitude Range Management student, faculty, and staff visited my Sami Reindeer Husbandry students in Finland. So the photo on the right is showing that cultural exchange where the Inupiaq student are meeting the Sami Reindeer Husbandry students, and they're sharing what it means to be in 2023, 2024, what does it mean to be an Indigenous reindeer herding youth? Our students had the opportunity last December then to also participate in a reindeer roundup, a reindeer handling. The photo on the left shows there's about 2,500 reindeer, approximately 125 reindeer owners, and they are identifying which reindeer will be harvested for a commercial inspected reindeer meat harvest, which occurs annually in the winter months of November, December. So in addition to the sales of reindeer meat, commercial sales, plus of course, subsistence use of reindeer meat, the High Latitude Range Management Program also shares amongst students and community members what could the full value of the reindeer husbandry mean when you have carvers in your communities, where you have community members that are interested in tanning the reindeer hides, skin sewing, making the traditional mucklucks from the legs of reindeer. Also during the student exchange, while we visited Kautokeino, Norway, and what's important about Kautokeino, that is one of the areas from 1898 through 1904, when the Sami reindeer herders from Norway, from Kautokeino, they came to the Bering Strait region with their reindeer to share what it's like to have reindeer that are tame in order to help deliver mail throughout the Arctic communities. So in this photo from Kautokeino, on the left, you can see how the reindeer hides, they have and still are used for home decoration. Those are actually used, sit on the floor to get comfortable close up to the TV. And on the right side, you can see all different preparations of vegetative tanned reindeer hides, which are being sold through a commercial business in a store in all throughout Karashiok, Kautokeno, Kamanin, Inari, and Ivalo. I can see there in the chat there are questions. I will get to those in just a few minutes. As part of the High Latitude Range Management Program, students that are in roughly their third year are then the ambassadors for their communities, and students have the opportunity to travel through not just local, but through statewide, national, and international conferences and workshops to share what their life is as an Alaskan Native Indigenous reindeer owner or reindeer entrepreneur or reindeer student. During the summer months, this is showing the basic introduction to tanning. For every reindeer that is harvested for meat, there is an available reindeer hide, which could be tanned and cured into leather or to fur. So throughout the summer months, all students, high school, like elementary, high school, and college students have the opportunity to do these value-added crafting courses where students will learn to use the natural resources from their own communities, such as stripping the bark from willow and alders and learning to tan fish skins as the first project. And if a student enjoys that, then they are welcome to participate in 1, 2, or 3 credit class in learning to tan reindeer hides into leather. And all of these classes, because they are college level classes, it's not just learn how to strip the bark, but while it's hands-on, the students then also learn the theory about the chemistry of tanning and how temperature, UV, and the rate of tanning all affect the finished product, the quality of the leather. This slide shows completed, like the raw materials that have been sanded or polished. The leathers are cured. On the desk in the front view, you can see a variety of fish skins. There's reindeer leather. There's experimental tanning of reindeer leathers that actually use an aniline dye, so it's very colorful. There's a reindeer fur boot on the table. There's reindeer antlers. And in developing curricula and working with Kawerak and working directly with the herders, some of the United States Department of Agricultural funding that the High Latitude Range Management Program receives is shared by encouraging reindeer herders to provide the course materials. So a reindeer owner is given perhaps gas money so that they will be encouraged to bring in antler and hoofs to the classroom so that future students have the opportunity to learn to develop their mastercraft skill level. This photo specifically is showing what is common during, say, just a 1 night or 2 night, maybe just 2 hours each evening, an introduction to what can you do with the byproducts from the Alaska reindeer industry. The Midnight Sun Reindeer Ranch, the Davis herd, is on roughly mile 13 of the Kawerak Road. So it is the closest access point for students that come to Nome to participate in High Latitude Range Management. It's our closest place where the students are able to get that hands-on experience of learning from the herder, actually analyzing the foodstuff bags. What are the chemical composition of reindeer feed when purchased commercially. On the right, students in the summer are helping the reindeer owner put up a privacy fence. Students also are from Savonga, and right now the Savonga Reindeer Commercial Company, they are under operations to expand their reindeer meat processing facilities with the development of new infrastructure to meet USDA inspected regulations for commercial sales of reindeer meat. This photo is showing 2 mobile processing units that had been acquired by the previous director of Northwest Campus. These are stationed on St. Lawrence Island. One of them is used for hanging the carcasses, and the second mobile unit is for actually cutting and vacuum packaging the meat before they are shipped off through Bering Air to other communities. In the last roughly 10 years, what I have learned about working in Nome and the Bering Strait region is it is imperative to have good collaboration between the reindeer owners, government agencies, such as like Bureau of Land Management, Kawerak Reindeer Herders Association, other Alaska Native tribes, the IRA, Natural Resource Conservation Services, National Park Service, the local high school, the Bering Strait School District principals, community members, trying to get to know and build relationships with as many people as possible, because that allows me as faculty to build a better, more stronger, more relevant, culturally relevant programming for students interested in the high latitude range management program. I am winding up right now. This slide is showing the Nunavik Island Kawerak students. So from this past August, the high latitude range management program staff and faculty were invited to share, to stimulate learning amongst all age groups of students at the school. And we were fortunate to have a fresh reindeer delivered to the classroom, where I set up then different stations according to different skill levels, ages of students, right from the 4 or 5-year-olds all the way up to the high school age students that were about to graduate. And this hands-on learning was to stimulate questioning, sharing what students already know, to observe by touch, by sense of smell. You can see the young students on the right-hand side, the initial reaction of we were actually counting and touching the warblefly larvae that were ready to emerge, pupate from the hides in May. So each larva develops into actually like a bumblebee looking type of a fly, which is called the warblefly. High school students on the left, they were given a set of questions about reindeer anatomy and physiology, grain size, the number of ribs, the difference in antler anatomy between adults, reindeer, between calves and adults, male and female. The Kawerak, Nunavik Island Kawerak Alaska Reindeer Corporation, they are also currently building for the future of commercial sales of reindeer meat products at their brand new abattoir or reindeer processing plant. Under guidance from the director, the current director of the High Latitude Range Management Program, Northwest Campus, Barb Amarak, Northwest Campus is also developing a reindeer training facility in Nome, where herders and students from all over Alaska, especially the Bering Strait region, will be able to come and train and learn what are current USDA regulations for the production and sales of commercial reindeer meat. This slide here is showing really the vision of the future, where our two young students, they graduated high school this past May, and we were fortunate to have them already participate in their very first high latitude range management 2-credit class in health and disease. So for the future, I would like to continue to elaborate partnership with the Kawerak Reindeer Herders Association, with the reindeer herders all over the circumpolar north, with, of course, a special emphasis on the Alaskan Native Indigenous herders within the state of Alaska, and how can the university support up and coming herders, or those that used to own reindeer that are hoping to be able to contribute to the uprise of the Alaska reindeer industry for the future. Thank you for this opportunity that I may share with you today. Life as faculty working with students, reindeer herders, and other government agencies that are all working together to develop and expand opportunities for reindeer meat sales and the value added byproduct sales for our own subsistence use, and to develop products suited to other target groups that visit our communities. My final slide is then some contact information. If you have the calling, if you have felt something, that if you know someone who you think is interested in joining the high latitude range management program, or any connection to reindeer husbandry within the state of Alaska or circumpolar wide, please contact myself, Jackie Hrabok, or our program manager, Bonnie Scheele.
Great. Thank you so much, Nathan and Jackie. I'm gonna do my little round of applause with the emoji. I think we've got a couple of questions here in the chat, if you all would be open to answering a few of those. The first one we got is from Susan, who asked, do they get 1 credit in the Ecology Explorer program? I have a reindeer health aid certificate from way back in the day. I got 1 credit.
The Ecology Explorer program is a 2-credit UAF science credit, plus students also receive 1 credit in applied arts. And they will, so together they receive a total of 3 credits for being present and actively participating in the week-long 24/7 Ecology Explorer program held face-to-face and delivered in Nome during the summer months.
And then Susan, I saw there was another question about how the slaughterhouse works and FDA approved, but I can't find it in my chat right now. Feel free to ask it aloud if you like.
Yeah, hi. Hey, I worked with the Nana reindeer herd back in the day. My dad was the president of Nana, so our family was really involved with the reindeer herding, and I actually took a lot of training in reindeer herding by foot and with dogs and horses. And that's how I ended up doing the think I was like 12 when I did the UAF reindeer herding certificate program. So anyway, I think back to the day, I was pretty young at the time, but by the time they got rid of the reindeer, it was like over 10,000. And I remember that one of the big barriers was they didn't have an approved plant, so all the sales were local. And kind of being in a place where everything has to be flown out or whatever, it was a huge barrier not to have a approved plant to be able to do things with the meat that we were able to slaughter. So anyway, I was just wondering about Nome, if they have a approved slaughterhouse and maybe how they got it.
So that's a wonderful question. Especially because as of very recently, there's a really exciting update in that area that the Reindeer Herders Association was able to jump in on. First, I'll say I can't take any kind of real credit for any of it because I've only had the privilege of serving the herders for about 4 months. However, the reindeer herders have been advocating for changing USDA compacting rules, essentially under the 1927 Food and Meat Production Inspection Act, to allow for tribes to have oversight over their own USDA meat inspections in compliance with, of course, agency rules and regulations. And in the Farm Bill reauthorization for 2023, Senator Murkowski actually included language that allows for tribal compacting for USDA meat inspections. That it's my understanding that the Farm Bill reauthorization has not actually been passed yet, even though it was supposed to have been passed a couple months back. However, that language is in there, and it's part of a slew of items she put in there, and I don't think any of them are particularly controversial, so I feel really hopeful about them being included in the final language. And I bring that up because that has been the main barrier to getting a slaughterhouse, because as of right now, the way that we are able to sell products, reindeer meat products specifically in the state, is under the Alaska Food Code's field slaughter regulations, where essentially you have to slaughter reindeer below 32 degrees at all, so only in the winter. They have to remain frozen at all times. The package has to be unmarked, or sorry, the package has to be marked as an uninspected product with specific cooking instructions. And then the products can only be sold in state. And that final point is probably the biggest barrier to value-added products, is at least in the meat realm. So if tribes can suddenly have the capacity to enter into compacts with USDA to do meat inspections, then not only do they keep a meat inspector paid for by USDA in the region that serves reindeer, which takes a huge amount of cost off of the herders to fly someone up there, which is prohibitive. But then that also allows them hypothetically to get those processing facilities that can add value-added products and actually be sold out of state, where there are both in-state and out of state, but just have more options on the table. So that's a really exciting update RHA was able to submit testimony to the Senate Indian Affairs Committee for.
Thanks, Nathan. I think Melissa said it best in the chat. That's so cool. We got another question from Annie about how many processing plants are in that area, and are they native-owned processing plants? And then Annie, I don't know if you wanted to specify which area you're talking about, or maybe Jackie and Nathan already know.
So the 2 mobile units that are in Savonga, those are UAF owned, and those will be updated, replaced in Savonga under their current new plan of a reindeer slaughter facility. So you'll learn more about that. And yes, it is located in Savonga. Kawerak on Nunavik Island, they have their brand new commercial reindeer plant. So those are the only those are the two plants that I am familiar with that are in existence right now. And in the probably the short-term future, I'd say within 5 years, there's going to be some more coming up, but that is probably still confidential right now. So stay tuned. There's a lot of really upsurge change and real positive energy in the reindeer as a livelihood in the state of Alaska, specifically amongst the Alaska natives right now. There's a lot of positive change occurring.
And I'll just add to that it's certainly a really important goal of the Reindeer Herders Association to really try our best to coincide the, expansion of that type of facility with the actual legal capacity to use it for value-added products in meat sales, because that the sort of change that we're referencing in Murkowski's addition to the Farm Bill is, in my mind at least, an incredibly important component to really get the most out of a slaughter facility, whether or not the herd chooses to keep the products in the region and really focus on food security, or whether they have commercial aspirations. I think either side, it's really important that they have more options available.
Great, thank you both. I think we probably have time for maybe one more question. But it sounds like both Nathan and Jackie are open to answering questions after, if you send them an email. Great, I'm seeing nods. So Colleen, I think you are our last question for today.
Thanks, Megan. Hi everyone, my name is Colleen. I'm calling from the Copper River Basin community. I work at Copper River Native Association. A lot of focus on food security and food sovereignty. And maybe you have or have not heard, but our subsistence harvest for caribou have been closed down. And so we're looking into other options, reindeer being one of them. I'm wondering, it's kind of a two-part question. One, is there participation support for students maybe to come from our region up to the Bering region for these kinds of programs? And the second piece is there capability from some of these actual reindeer herders for entities like our food bank to be purchasing like large amounts of meat to bring back home here? Thanks.
For any community member that is interested in taking like coursework, because most of it is offered face-to-face. The funding that the High Latitude Range Management Program currently has is specifically Alaska Native Serving through USDA. It could be possible through that grant that we might be able to offer some student support if a student were interested in registering for the full certificate program. And in any case, absolutely send me an email if your community has a specific need, or if there's a course or workshop or training or something like that we could develop with you. That is something I would absolutely like to connect and partner with you on.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I think that might be all of our time for today. I just want to thank our presenters, Jackie and Nathan, for doing such an amazing job covering so much about reindeer herding history and kind of what's happening today, especially at the Northwest campus, in such a short period of time. I know I learned a lot I didn't know. Andre, sure. Would you like to do a quick comment as we're hopping off?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I worked with Kawerak and got them that EDA grant that was used to refurbish that old facilities they had. It's 2011, I think, when we got that grant. But that comment I made about the Reindeer Act, it was designed to kill reindeer industry, not to make it stronger. So, because cattle barons, once they saw that back in the days, Alaska Reindeer Company started exporting 18,000 carcasses to London, Boston, New York, all the fancy restaurants, they just killed limited ownership to natives. Because back then there was like 1,500 reindeer owners, and half of the reindeer were owned by the Lohman brothers. The other half was owned by the natives. The herd was 640,000 strong. Western Arctic caribou herd is part of them is a reindeer that got loose. What I wanted to say is that you got to look into that local food purchase program, get reindeer certified as a commodity for Food and Nutrition Service that the BIA and USDA buy for tribes. Because that would make, along with reauthorization of the Reindeer Act and LFPA, that would help reindeer herders. Thanks.
Thank you for that comment. And again, if anybody else has anything else that they would like to ask the presenters or to chat with them about, feel free to email them as well. With that, I want you all to have a fantastic, lovely rest of your Wednesday. And just as a note, the recording of the session posted with everything in the chat and the slides as well will be posted on our website in the next couple of days. So with that, have a lovely time. Stay warm.
Hello, this is Lillian.
Yeah.
For the city of Nooksut up on the North Slope, we've seen a lot of caribou in our areas that are changing in their diversion of route. And I thought, looking at the slides, the students gathering the food that they're eating, and after that would be their fecal for what do you call those things? Anyways, but is there a way that I could find out more about that? The food that they're eating and the fecal inspection of the worms or whatever they call them.
Jackie, are you?
Yes, if you're concerned with the diet of the caribou, we were wanting to know what they have eaten based on analyzing. Okay.
I actually know what they're eating, but just after the fact that they ate, and back in the day, and I didn't know that they gathered to inspect the fecal stuff and finding out about worms and stuff in their fecal and how it affects their and where it comes from.
So if there was a fecal sample that you wanted analyzed, it's roughly one time per year where I have students learning all about that in Nome. Otherwise, there's the state lab in Anchorage, the environmental state lab, where if you wanted like a formal result analysis of a fecal sample, that would be the place to send it to the state veterinarian, Dr. Bob Gerlach. But if you would like students from the High Latitude Range Management Program to take a look at your samples, then I would be your good contact for that.
Okay, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. That's all I had.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, but thanks all again.